It's great, Balaji. Who else? Who's new? Anybody new today?
Yeah, if anybody's new, they want to raise their hand, they can take 30 seconds or so to introduce themselves. Or folks.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey,
I'm good.
Shilpa.
I'm not new, but I've not been on for a while, so I'm going to reintroduce myself. So Shilpa Shah, colleague of Balaji's, but from across the pond in the UK, focusing on digital transformation as part of our human capital practice and primarily in healthcare. But I was just on with Melissa, who it was great to meet just now, talking about trying to drive that change in our alternative talent strategy and how we can help accelerate our clients' journeys with that.
Awesome. Well, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank
Anybody
you.
else new or that hasn't been here in a while that wants to say hello?
Can I actually say something? Yeah, this is Sujit. I've actually been around, but I just wanted to actually give a quick announcement, if I may.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we've been actually working on a new talent marketplace, yet another one. But what we are actually doing differently is we are actually trying to, bridge the trust deficit in the whole gig workspace, right? So the announcement is that we actually did a beta launch globally as of yesterday. In fact, I've actually tagged a few of you on that announcement yesterday.
I saw that.
Yeah. So I just wanted to let you guys know that this is actually out there. It's called Gigs Board. Gigs, as you very well know, and board because we actually have a Trello-like Kanban board sitting on top, which actually gives a visual representation of Gigs status at all times. And with a agile project management engine also built in, which actually enables a trust aspect.
Great. Thanks so much for letting us know. And
Absolutely.
Link just put the link in, so everybody go check that out.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then Una,
sure. I'll do that right away.
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you.
And then Una, you have your hand up too.
Yeah, hi everyone. I just wanted to say hi again because I haven't been here for a while. My name is Una. I'm the co-founder of the Indie List in Ireland, and we set up during the first wave of lockdown in July 2020, actually initially as a pro bono initiative to help freelancers in marketing, communications and e-commerce based in Ireland to find work, because obviously during COVID, it was a very challenging time for a lot of people, but particularly freelancers whose livelihoods had been quite decimated. So we set up the Indie List as a place where people could find work, but also network, learn, feel part of a like-minded community. So bearing in mind, we're in Ireland, right? We're a very small marketplace. We consider ourselves to be kind of very high touch in terms of how we operate. So we take a lot of time to really understand what the client requirements are and then make sure that we're putting the right people in front of those opportunities. And so since we started off, we've got about 1,200 people now in our community right across all of the marketing and communications services. And we've generated nearly about 5 million in new revenue for the freelance sector in Ireland. So we're really happy with that, but we've got a long way to go. And I'm so happy to be part of this group and all the support that you guys offer to us as we build out this freelancer first platform. We're super excited. So thank you very much.
Oh, thanks for being here. That's exciting news. Congrats on all the success for sure.
Thanks, John. And John, you will be really impressed because like the Indie List started off originally in a hammock in Kilkenny, and I know you like your hammocks.
I do like my hammocks on the beach. Yeah, that's awesome. I love those kind of founding stories for sure. Well, I thought, today we'd reflect a little bit about, back on 2022 and have people chat about, what they've kind of, what they saw and how things are going and their successes or any kind of news from their company, but also in reflecting on 2023 as well, just kind of anything you're looking forward to or any trends you're seeing that we all as a group should share. And maybe to kick things off, Barry, I'll let you kind of go and talk about, Open Assembly. And we've had a lot of big shifts and a lot of great stuff, and we can dive in and then the rest of the folks can join in.
Oh God, where to start? I think for us, it's been a super exciting and an educational year. I mean, this time last year, if I think about it, we hadn't even met in person, right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, it's just incredible how much has changed. So yeah, bringing the two companies together and creating what is the sort of next version of OpenAssembly has been incredible this year. I think if I think about it from an industry perspective, so much has changed. The industry has grown so much. It might feel to lots of us who are in it every day that it's sort of baby steps, but I think it was 30% growth in platform use from a B2B perspective in the last 12 months. And we're sort of starting to see customers that we go and see, they get it now. I think it's not all about education and having to convince them that they should have a talent platform strategy. It's they get it and they recognize that it's an important part of the talent mix, that there should be a blended workforce that incorporates talent platforms now, and that enables them to access talent from around the world, in an on-demand way, often at more competitive prices, often in a more productive and more efficient way. And they get that, but they still don't really know how to do it. And so I think this year we've done a pretty good job at setting some standards, getting a methodology together, a toolkit, having a consistent approach for implementing platforms at scale. And we've done, as OpenAssembly, we've done pretty well. We've, helped some of our clients win awards. UST just won another award last week at the Tiara Awards, which was great, which together with the Global Sourcing Association Awards makes them now a global multi-award winning program, which is awesome. I think I was counting it up earlier, we've worked with 10 different clients, helping them to enable their people to access talent platforms in a safe and secure way. We've managed to overcome some of the things which may have made the industry, have constrained the growth of the industry. So I think most clients will worry about culture and security and confidentiality and IP protection and quality and consistency and all of these things. And I think we managed to overcome those with the clients that we're working with. And as much as there's still always going to be a concern, there are now recognized solutions for just about every one of those ones that I've reeled off. So I think we're sort of, we've achieved a lot, but we're still at the very beginning of what I see as huge potential change for the talent industry as a whole. So I'm really excited about what's ahead. As I think you all know, from an OpenAssembly perspective, we raised some money with Doug and some others, so we're super excited about that. We're cataloging the supply side of the industry and trying to create some cool ways of comparing talent platforms, comparing quality, setting standards, setting consistency. And then we're helping to, on the demand side, to set standard business processes, standard ways of working to make it as easy as possible for enterprises to use talent platforms. Next year we'll have a really cool way of searching across multiple talent platforms to be able to access the skills you're looking for in a couple of clicks, regardless of which talent platform they're on. And I think that'll be super cool for the industry, sort of game changing, that you've got one place to go to search for the skills that you're looking for without disintermediating platforms. So we've been thinking a lot about that. And we're really excited about what lies ahead for that. Super excited for the CTW next year as well, and organizing a big event, we hope, in, I think, end of May. So really looking forward to getting into that as well. I'm sure John or Brandon will mention that. But yeah, personally, I've learned so much this year. It's been great to interact with so many of you, so many of our clients and colleagues and friends. It's been a super exciting and fun year. And I'm looking forward to a few drinks next week and then relaxing into Christmas.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Barry. Yeah, I know some hands are up, but I just wanted to reflect on some of Barry's stuff. I love all you guys, and it's been an incredible year again of growth and change, and the industry continues to make huge strides forward. But I'm really especially grateful for Doug Atkins, who's on the call here. He and I, Doug, how long ago was it when we started talking about the idea of building a kayak for the open talent marketplace? Probably last spring, right? Or maybe even before that, maybe a year and a half ago. I'm not sure how long ago it was, but anyway, Doug and his team at Communitas, we're partnering with them to really build this, like Barry said, this kayak of open talent.
Sorry,
No
I was
worries.
I was on mute, John. We've been
Oh.
we've been talking about it for a while, and we're kindred spirits, and yeah, we're just so happy and pleased to partner up with you to really grow the business and the industry. So
Well, thanks, Doug.
we're
Really,
really we love the community that you built, and which is, you know, represented on this call. So the power of it. So anyway,
Yeah.
thank
Well,
you and your team.
Yeah, no, thanks, Doug. I think it's been really wonderful, and we're only at the start of trying to figure this out. You know, the goal really is to create technology that reduces friction for the marketplace, right? To create common language and common process, and be able to really accelerate this so enterprises have an easier time, you know, buying open talent. So, and making it good for all three constituents in our marketplace: the freelancers, the platforms, and the enterprises. Really, you know, really driving, you know, efficiencies there. So, and then, you know, as Barry mentioned, one of the things I think, you know, these calls have been super awesome, and we've really all enjoyed them. I think as I reflect back on, you know, 2019 and the start of COVID, we had planned on having a big, you know, global summit. And, you know, obviously with COVID coming along, it didn't happen. And that was going to be our funding source for this community. So we could do all kinds of great things and support the great work of folks like Link that have been doing so much really, really good work out in the marketplace. And we want to get back to that. So we're going to be having an event here in Boulder called Transform Work 2023 in May. And you guys will be getting the details. We're going to keep it small, you know, a couple hundred people, but really focus on, you know, figuring out this friction problem from enterprises and platforms and all the other players in the industry to make sure that we're all going forward together and figuring this out together. So those are the kind of things that, you know, great year this year, and really excited and so grateful for so many of you guys, everybody actually. And then looking forward to lots of really good momentum next year. So thanks. Hey, Albert, you got your hand up.
Hey, how you doing? I wanted to quickly say, for those of you who don't know me, I'm the CEO of Underpin and the chair of the Association for the Future of Work. I wanted to first thank you guys for this community, because it's amazing. And the CCW has been incredibly supportive of the association and all the work we've been doing. I'm really excited to continue working with you guys in the new year. I just wanted to mention one quick trend, because Barry mentioned the education piece and how people are becoming more accepting. And the work that Open Assembly have been doing has been incredible in transforming how companies view accessing open talent and understand how to actually do it. But we've seen a trend on the exact other side of education, which is really exciting, in the UK, where we have 200,000 undergraduates who now get access to our freelance education programs as part of their degree. And as of last week, which is a really exciting development, the universities have decided that the first cohort, which will be 10,000 students from January 2023, have to complete a freelance course via our platform to complete their degree, which I think is a real statement of this is really serious. And in the UK, it's 2/3 of graduates go on to freelance within 3 years of graduating. So we have like this pull from the Open Assembly guys and enterprise going, actually, we're starting to get it now, but we're also seeing a push from education where finally they're going, actually, you shouldn't be leaving university without these skills.
Yeah, I love that. That's so smart, and really, you know, really appreciate all your efforts, Albert. I mean, I think that's, you know, certainly a huge part of the marketplace. You know, that the way I look at it, and what I'm, you know, Jen and Kareem and I are writing in the book, we have a whole chapter on this, and you know, the thing I think about is really technology has enabled people to become micro entrepreneurs really easily, right? That the idea that the technology can support you as going into your own business, yet there's no education on how to do that, and I think that's the big missing link. And my sense is that what's going to happen is that if we get this kind of demand side right, it can explode really fast, but we've got to get the supply side right, and really, really appreciate all your efforts around that.
And just to build upon Albert's point, I mean, one thing I mentioned in the chat is that when we're talking with the education providers, I think we almost need to not focus on a future career as a freelancer versus a traditional employee, but rather highlight that the skills the students are learning as a prospective freelancer are invaluable for any professional role they take. And that sort of provides a nice backdoor in, because it doesn't, at the end of the day, the universities are focused on the employer partners. As much as they want to have the students get great jobs and all of the other stuff and be wildly successful, the employers are the ones writing the big bills. So part of it is helping them realize that the skills we want to hone will be valued by the employers should Jeff, the student, take a full-time role with them, or if Jeff decides to be a freelancer.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point, Jeff. Thanks. You know, I was actually at Wharton last week speaking at the Future of Education conference, and I was, you know, well, 3/4 of the room got it, you know, at these universities got it from around the world. There were a few people that were incredibly threatened, right? And thought, you know, they're very much the paternalistic, you know, view of like, we're the smart ones, students need to learn from us. We're going to provide them with jobs. We're going to provide them with, you know, benefits. We own their talent. And it was just really a great discussion, thinking about this new paradigm of, you know, accessing talent, allowing the responsibility of people to manage their own careers and their own, you know, their own trajectory, right? Whether that's in a full-time role inside a company that can morph through a great platform like Gloat because they have opportunities to work on different kinds of things and be upskilled, or out in the freelance market. So really good point. I think that's awesome.
John,
oh yeah,
this is Sujit again. In fact, I've actually been having a similar conversation here in my part of the world. I'm actually looking at how we can improve the employability of students who are actually getting ready for the workplace. I mean, here I believe that employability is actually a big problem for a lot of students because they are very, very, you know, in a theoretical space and not in that professional environment. They are actually not connected to the real world. So what I'm actually looking at is, can we use gig work to actually have students sort of earn while they learn, right? Build up their skills, build up their resumes. And when they actually get out into the actual, out of college into the workplace, they are actually ready to work in a professional environment, right? So they are actually not freshers anymore. They're actually experienced hands, so to speak.
No, I love that. That's a great point. Thanks so much for adding
that. That also sounds like exactly the reason we created Parker Doing. I mean, not to be pitching, like what you said, 100% agree. Let's stop fighting about college versus non-college. Let's stop fighting about a role as a freelancer or as an employee. Let's make sure that everyone is prepared to launch their careers when they graduate from university, and do so with a series of real professional experiences to both demonstrate their skills, but also to help them have a better understanding of what is the right career path. So totally agree.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I think, as someone said in the chat, I think Shilpa said in the chat, it's not just about university students, right? It's about retirees,
in fact,
working moms.
In fact, I'm actually also part of another community, which is.
Sujit, there you go. Thanks.
Yeah, so it's not just about university students, right? I mean, that's the thing. It's about, it's about people who are retired. It's about working mums or dads. It's about people who just want to work fractionally. The skill to work as a freelancer, the education to understand the art of the possible is so incredibly important. So I think, what Albert's doing and
statistically,
super important.
Statistically, our most successful group are the group we call the Never Too Laters, which are the people who are making the kind of late career transitions, and they're by far the most successful at making the transition.
Yeah.
Great point.
Awesome.
Great point.
Can I say one more thing about education before we move on? Partly to test Glenn's amazing patience. Thank you for waiting, Glenn. You're all fabulous. So we've talked a lot about education on the supply side. One of the things that I'm really passionate about, and Open Assembly supports organizations on the demand side. That's what we're doing. But not all organizations can afford to have someone like Open Assembly as supporting them full time and making it all work for them. So one of the things that we're putting together is education for the demand side, for the enterprise, for those medium-sized businesses, because unless they get good at using freelancers, they still won't have a good experience, however fabulous the freelancers are. So if they engage with freelancers in the wrong way, they're not going to have a great experience. They're not going to come back. They're not going to work with other freelancers. They're not going to expand their horizons in terms of the use of open talent. So we're putting together some accessible, scalable training that can be rolled out into the demand side of the market in support of what Albert and others are doing on the supply side.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Eleanor. All right, Glenn, thanks for your patience, man. I know you've been waiting for a while.
It just goes to show you shouldn't be polite and put your hand up. You should just get right in there. I think I've learned the lesson there.
Exactly.
No,
Exactly.
it's just get stuck in. Now I was going to just to follow up on the first comments from Barry there, just to ask a little bit more about what sort of the main trends we're seeing and the main focus that we think we should be looking at into 2023 as this thing that we're dealing with sort of evolves. It's very much a movable feast. And it'd be great to have sort of the insights about where we should be looking, and maybe some red flags that are coming up at the moment.
That's a great question. I always call on Steve King. Is Steve still here? Because I saw him earlier.
I am.
Okay. Yeah, you're the man always I call for that like insight. You're doing so much great research out there and have done it so, in such a longitudinal way. So have at it. What are you seeing out there? What should we be prepared for in 2023?
Well, one of the most interesting trends for us in 2022, we've been tracking this industry for 15 years now and doing an annual census. 2022 was the first year where the number of people being freelancers / independent workers, that number grew faster than the overall number of independent workers. For the last 14 years, the part-timers have been really the key driver of the independent workforce. They've been growing at 2 to 3 times the rate of the full-timers. But in 2022, full-timers slightly outgrew part-timers. And so that's in percentage terms. That's a very big shift, because what we're seeing now is more and more people are choosing this as their full-time employment option. Whether that's a long-term trend, you can't draw a line with just one data point, and that's 2022. But it does seem like the shift towards independent work as a primary source of income is actually increasing faster than it has in the past. So I think that's a big one, and we're going to be curious to see that if that continues into 2023. In terms of 2023, the issue is, will we fall into a recession in the US and other parts of the world? Europe in some ways may already be in a recession. And if so, how will that affect independent workers and freelancers? And in the past, what has happened is recessions tend to hurt freelancers early in the recession, but in mid-recession, the freelance industry comes back fairly quickly, and then for the past 3 recessions has accelerated afterwards. So we'll see if that happens again, and that's one of the things that we're going to watch in 2023.
Well, that's great. Yeah, one of the things I think I might have told the story here, just to build on Steve's stuff, is that I talked to Tammy Browning not too long ago from Kelly, and she was just telling me that the data that they see is obviously in the tech sector, especially that there have been layoffs and so a reduction of full-time employment, in the HR side of things. But really, those companies still need to get the work done. So the acceleration of other kinds of working with folks, whether it's with vendors or freelancers or temporary workers. So something that we'll see if that continues, and I'm sure Steve, you're on that. Balaji, you got your hand up.
Yeah, one thing that I am a little concerned or worried about the impact on freelancing is the concept of generative AI, which has become heavily in the press and in media in the last couple of weeks with ChatGPT, and which you can ask you to write a press release, you can ask you to write scripts, and there is a segment of freelancers that participate in the roles that this type of technology will certainly disintermediate. I mean, there'll always be really high quality freelancers that this probably will not, but there is a segment of it which absolutely it will. The second is, where there's ChatGPT's text-based outcomes, there's visual outcomes that companies like Midjourney and Stable Diffusion, where you can go describe it saying, I want a post-apocalyptic view of a girl running in the field, and it'll generate an image for you. It'll generate all kinds of images for you. And if you think about Fiverr, one of the most dynamic freelance marketplaces, the writing, research, and visual design is a predominant part of their freelance usage, or at least models. And I feel like AI is coming nice and hard into that space, which will have its impact sooner than we expected.
Yeah, that's a great point. In fact, that really dovetails in. When I was at Wharton last week, I spent some time with our friend Jerry Wind. I don't know if Jerry's on the call today, but he's working with a company out of New York called Amelia, and you guys should check it out. And maybe Brandon, you could put the link up. I think that's the name of the company, and it's a generative AI, system. And essentially, the use case they lay out in the video, which I think is worth watching, is the idea that they can essentially take over customer service, practice for a company, and they can do unlimited number of work with unlimited number of customers at the same time on calls, and in 50 different languages, and zero latency of waiting for calls and things like that, but also 98% accuracy. And the way the system's set up, or at least they describe it, is if the AI feels like it doesn't know the knowledge, it pulls in a human resource so that they can learn from that interaction. I think you're totally right, Balaji. I think in some of these, niches, and then you guys, I don't know, Brandon, when does the Bettina podcast go up?
That should go out early next week.
Okay, yeah, take a look at that, because Bettina Schaller from Adecco and I talked about the idea that, I guess, she was describing to me yesterday, a couple of days ago, that the European Union just agreed to acknowledge platform workers. And somebody might have better knowledge here than I do, but this is secondhand. She also said that the European Union has stated that they want freelance workers to be full-time employees on those platforms. That they want to, look at it the same way that they do other kinds of staffing industries. And one of the things we talked about, which I thought was super interesting, is if governmental agencies and other, people making rules around employment, will that in fact drive people to AI solutions quicker? Will that mean that, hey, I can't work with freelance talent, or I can't work with other kinds of, other kinds of freelance or other kinds of talent that aren't full-time, and I don't want to deal with all the governmental relations. I'm just going to start really leaning into more AI. Something to watch out for, I think. Glenn, you got your hand up, and Steve, so do you.
Yeah, just to say on this point here that what we've had this week is the Employment and Social Affairs Committee of the European Parliament has voted on the platform worker rights dossier. And as you say, this presumption of employment is something that's gone in. This was kind of against the broad brush feeling from the beginning. But the positive element is that people who want to be freelancers by choice, there is the openness that they can be independent contractors. So what we're hoping that this will actually sort of take away the whole negative narrative around, people on mopeds delivering pizzas and sushi for no money at all, and actually sort of move the debate about the future of work, platform economy, gig economy, into something much more sort of grown up, more developed, and more facilitating for the economy as a whole. So hopefully, if we can get over that, what has been such a stumbling block and a real sort of roadblock almost for the whole debate around the future of work, hopefully, if we can get that put to bed, we're actually in a sort of a better place in terms of seeing this as a legitimate and a lifestyle and work style choice for so many more people within society. We'll see what happens. I can do updates. Basically, this has to go to the plenary session. Then the members of the governments of the EU member states have to vote on it. They're coming on from a slightly different perspective, but I could do like a short 2-minute update on where we are on that legislation. But I think overall, it really underlines the importance of what's happening, and also facilitates what's actually happening from a platform perspective, employer of record, that this is something that will be written into law and seen as a key part of the overall labor market and the economy as a whole going forward. So I think it's a positive step really over the medium to longer term for Europe.
Yeah, that's really great, Glenn. If you could just keep us in touch with that, that would be awesome. And on some good news, Bettina, on the podcast committed that she's very, very focused on our our ecosystem fitting into Adecco's ecosystem as well, and wants to make sure that there's room and is going to advocate for that on that level. Hey, Steve King, you have your hand up too.
Yeah, I was going to go back to generative AI. We use several generative AI systems in our work. Jasper, which is an early example of it for writers, and one called Growth Bar, which is also an early system for writers. And we've had the opportunity to play with ChatGPT prior to its public beta, and we fool around with it a fair amount. All of these are really useful to augment and help writers produce, work quicker, more efficiently. And so it's going to be an interesting thing. It just makes us more productive and easier to do things. So there will be replacement, but there will be this augmentation. And when we look at generative AI, we actually get excited about the augmentative powers that generative AI give people and expand their ability. And so like any technology, it will be interesting. I agree with Balaji, low-end stuff will go away to the AIs. But if you're mid-level or a high-level researcher, consultant, writer, artist, we think these things will be mostly augmentative.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I feel the same way. I've used Jasper a little bit, and it's really amazing. It's mind-blowing, isn't it? The ability to have a seed of, here I'm thinking about this, and maybe put up a paragraph on, and then have it kind of go to the internet and then find all kinds of source data is awesome.
Yeah,
Haley, you got your hand up. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and ChatGPT is so fast and covers so much ground so quickly. Frankly, we find the text a little boring and repetitive, but it's a really nice research tool. My one warning, if you're going to use it, it makes lots of mistakes though. So you gotta do a little digging on the source data yourself.
Little more editing, right? A little more editing. And I know, Barry and our CTO Ruben and I have been talking about how could this play in a role in creating more consistency, especially in the problem definition side of things, right? In job roles, and making sure, because one of our, I think one of the friction points in the technology or even in the marketplace right now is the fact that everybody calls the role that they're looking for a little bit different, and gets obviously different search results. So if we can use the power of generative AI to help, create some commonality there, to take more friction out and get people to work faster, I think it's going to be a really powerful tool. So Link, sorry to have you wait so long.
No, actually I didn't. And that was a great segue into some of the things I was going to share. To share a little bit about from the worker side, and things have just exploded, right, with the language and how people define themselves. And the algorithms are doing great to identify all different types of work. And now what I'm seeing and recognizing is that there's such a break in so many people wanting to make a break in this kind of market. But now there's so many platforms out there. Where do they go? And do they sign up for all of them? And so I think what we're going to see really moving in is a lot of people doing marketplaces, a lot of platform managers doing marketplaces and focusing on the worker. And I'm seeing a trend of a lot of platform leaders that are saying, hey, we're actually focused on the worker side, doing things for benefits and healthcare, and making sure that they have support and peer groups and, different upskilling opportunities, or just a platform of resources, and are starting there, and then actually looking at the business enterprise and saying, okay, now we've done this for workers. How do we engage business enterprise leaders to bring us in to contract us and use our workers? Because they care about health, so now it's not only are they looking for freelancers, but what kind of type or person that, it's going back to so I'm seeing a lot of this trending, and I'm really getting excited about it, but there's a lot of noise. And so it can be very confusing on really what to put out there as far as what is the great service to use, what is the great application or tool if you're an entrepreneur. And so I'm looking forward to the 2023 year to provide more education and workshops and webinars on educating the freelancer out there. How can they scale this from going from part-time to being more of a full-time gig for themselves? So that's great.
That's great. Anybody else want to chat about what they saw in 2022 and what they're excited about, and looking forward to 2023, insights on what might happen? Love for you to share.
Go for it, Todd.
Hey guys, thanks. So one thing I just would love to report is I went to the World Open Innovation Conference in Eindhoven, Netherlands last month. And this was a conference where a lot of preprint research is presented. One of the things that was mind-blowing, it was a paper by Chris Tucci and Mehdi, I'm going to get his last name wrong, about platform citizenship. And the research discovered an anomaly in digitally enabled marketplaces. And their initial research focuses on electricity, so not us, but the anomaly applies to Open Talent, it applies to Uber, it applies to Upwork, where, and the energy part was where people could get paid to use and consume energy, consume power. So imagine a group of Uber drivers in a certain region all of a sudden saying, we're going to drop off the platform from 6 p.m. until whenever and wait for the prices to go up. So the anomaly is if you can move data from the platform's hands into the hands of the freelancers, hands of the users, then all of a sudden they shift power away from the platforms, and this could destroy a platform. This research, I think, I can't wait to see the final reports, but it's really impressive. And the other thing for 2023 is there's the Oxford Handbook of Open Innovation should be published next year. So that should be fun for everyone.
Awesome. Well, thanks for letting us know. Who else has got some great stuff like Todd? Nobody's excited to chat about what they're doing. Oh yeah, Sheila. Yay. Love your hat.
Thanks. Well, once I realized everyone was wearing hats, I ran downstairs and got, this is the Radio City Christmas Spectacular hat, apparently.
I love it.
Yeah. So just to introduce myself, Sheila Mahoney, LifeSci Hub. I am an independent expert in pharmaceutical research and development, and LifeSci Hub is a platform dedicated to small micro businesses of folks who have decoupled from the corporate ladder to become small micro businesses and practice their craft. A couple of things that we've seen just to share, because it was fairly interesting. We did an analysis of our small business community population and compared it against common data about turnover. So the data was from Aon, which is a HR consultancy, I believe, AON, and the turnover rate was something at or around between 16 and 20%, depending on the variables that they had. But overall, it was 16 to 20% general turnover of full-time employees for corporations. What we found in pharmaceutical research and development for mid-career professionals, these are folks that had over 10 years experience, very highly trained, over 50% had some sort of advanced degree, mostly PhDs, that the turnover rate was actually 34% in R&D, which is kind of mind-blowing. And that was over the course of 10 months. And it was a sample of 500, close to 500 professionals. So then we analyzed it a little bit further to see where did everybody go. And I actually don't have the data right in front of me, but what my recall is that 4% of a total of 4% of that 500 left, turned over and became independent experts, independent small business experts. So we haven't actually published anything yet. We also had information who went, of that 34% that turned over, where did they go? Did they go to another drug sponsor? Did they go to another entity in the vendor ecosystem? Did they leave industry? Did they retire? So we conducted all of that, which was really, really interesting. But the big takeaway for me was 34% turnover, which experientially feels like it's accurate. And that 4% did not come back to the full-time workforce at all. And the one last thing I'll say about this, two last things. Number one is that's been true, although I don't have the data to prove it. That's not something that is recent in this particular vertical. That due to M&A, this has been going on for a really long time. Like I believe this is I would say at least a decade, if not longer. So that 4% doesn't really sound like a lot, but when you look at it over the course of a decade or more, it actually does add up. And the other thing I'll say is that, you know, just a takeaway, what LifeSci Hub's experience has been is that the corporate immune system, and it's funny, I said on the breakout, I was on the breakout with Alex, who I don't think is on the phone anymore, and Candy. You know, just very quick, what is it that you want to see in 2023? And what came to me was, I want to see a vaccine for the corporate immune system. Yeah, that's my hope for 2023 in terms of this community, and especially LifeSci Hub and drug development, because the corporate immune system in the pharmaceutical industry, I've come to realize, is on an order of magnitude, it seems stronger than any other vertical, which is unfortunate, but hoping to make progress with that vaccine in 2023. And I will shut up.
I love it. Yeah, thanks so much. That's a great insight, and I totally agree. I think all of us would agree with that. The corporate immune system, it seems like what happens is that, you know, the more threatened it becomes, the more strong it gets. You know, it's kind of, hopefully it's the kind of the dying breath of a lot of that stuff. Hey, I want to call on Ruben. Ruben, you're here. You're our CTO, and you know, we've been working together for a little bit, and I always really enjoy our conversations because you have such a broad understanding of technology, and you've been in the trenches, in the engine room, building the OA technology. Any insights you've learned from the market, and you're kind of learning that we all could take away, kind of as something to think about as we go into the new year, and things that you're hoping that the overall culture jumps into or morphs towards trends or learnings.
You really could have asked me this question like yesterday, so I could have prepared for this, John.
Yeah, I know. That's not my style.
Fair enough. Drop this on me. Honestly, I think my biggest takeaway is, like, every day I'm learning of how vast the space is, how different the marketplaces are. And like even just yesterday, we learned that there's so many different types of marketplaces. The one thing that I have noticed more and more is that transparency seems to be winning. This is just a personal opinion, by the way. I found that clients are sort of shying away from variable rates, variable markups. People like transparency, and I think that's sort of where the market is going. As the market is maturing, I think we're getting sort of a free market where there's more and more information available, and people do decide based on that information. And I think the ones that are not transparent, the marketplaces that are not transparent, are the ones that are losing out in the long run. That's just a random observation from recently. It's also something we heavily advocate at Open Assembly, transparency, and like we are going to make that market happen. So either people change and become more transparent, or they'll probably just wither away and die. Just a random observation, John.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think it's something to, it's certainly something that we've, fundamentally been is foundational for us. And I love the fact that the marketplace seems to be going, in that direction as well. Anything else? Balaji, you've got a nice long, text here, chat in the chat. Anything you want to share?
Oh yeah, I love the concept of corporate antibodies. And I think that's one of the things that we haven't done as for freelancing is create a risk pool. Businesses take risks all the time. This is not the first time that they've seen a risk and they're scared of it. But there's always been a concept of paying a premium into something and having a risk pool back it up, right? What if all the community, all the platforms come together and create a risk pool, saying, the reputational risk, what is the typical things that these immune system throws up? It's a reputational risk. It's an information risk. It's a cybersecurity risk. Is it impossible? No, it is totally possible. But it's not all on you if something goes wrong. We have a risk pool that we'll pay you if something goes wrong. Isn't that easier to say instead of, a lot of times when we look at corporate antibodies, we say, oh, they are foolish. But is there a better answer than that? And I think there is a business model answer to that. Which I think we should explore at some point.
I love that. No, I think that's, and it's certainly at the core of what we're trying to do at OA is create that commonality, right? create those things that we can come together as an industry under one voice and be united to, put up some answers to those corporate antibodies so that we can create safety. We hired a PR agency that I worked with at the folks at to help launch Victors and Spoils long time ago. And when I told them what we were doing, Lee Cashman, the CEO, it was super great. She's like, well, what you're really trying to do is create safety. You're trying to create safety for freelancers and safety for platforms and safety for, hiring managers and folks that need to use this. And I thought that was such a great insight from somebody that doesn't know the marketplace really well, is how can we all create safety for all the constituencies so that it becomes the normal way of working, right? The standard way of working. So anything else? We got 5 minutes left, and happy to take any questions or, have people share what they're up to and, continue that, thread too. Brandon.
I can just wrap it up with this is our last call of the year, and then we'll have our first call on the third Thursday of January. So look out for some calendar invites from us to get you set up for next year. We're not going to do the first Thursday of January in 2023 because we're doing an all hands on deck meeting here in Boulder with Barry and Eleanor and Ruben and the crew, and so we'll be tied up in a conference room looking at whiteboards,
which will be great, and some skiing on the weekend. We can't not do that for sure. Yeah. Well, good. Any last comments before we kick off the holiday seasons and move on?
All right.
No.
Thank
thanks,
you,
guys. Yeah,
thank you to CTW for being so amazing. It's such a great part of
Thanks for being
2022, and I'm sure 2023 as well.
Yeah,
we're
John
really
Healy
stoked.
John Healy couldn't make it today. He's had an appointment that he couldn't miss, so that's why he's not here, if anyone was wondering. But he sends
thanks for all the support and all the good creativity and great conversation. I look forward to kind of using all this energy and make something even more amazing happen next year as a community. So happy holidays and happy new year, and ping me if anybody needs anything. Really love you guys, and happy holidays.
Take care.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you very much, guys.
Bye.
Guys. Thank
Ciao.
you.